Hello and welcome, friends, to the Bradford National Bank podcast studio here in beautiful downtown Highland, Illinois. This is the Highland Dirt Podcast. Let's do this. I'm your host, Kurt Vonder Haar. I'm solo time. How is everybody doing? You doing good? I'm doing fantastic. We are just days away from the biggest show in track history with the first visit from the world of Outlaws late models. I'm feeling the goosebumps right now on Wednesday, August 14th. I'm ready. Are you ready? Hello to all of our friends watching out there live on social media via Facebook, YouTube, and X. If you have questions for us during the podcast, please leave them in the comments and we'll do our best to get to them. We got a great show for you tonight. Joining us on the first segment of the podcast will be micro sprint driver and promoter extraordinaire Tyler Robbins to talk about a big race coming up Saturday. And our special guest tonight is the voice of the world of Outlaws late models, a very familiar voice around Highland Speedway, Mr. Dynamite himself, Ruben Mireles. So the Highland Dirt Podcast is brought to you tonight by Jansen Auto Group. Hundreds of vehicles are available right now at gojansen.com. With Jansen Ford a Breeze, Jansen Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram and Carmi, and Jansen Chevrolet in Germantown, they have just the vehicle you're looking for. You can search their entire inventory at gojansen.com. That's gojansen.com. Jansen Auto Group is proud to support local dirt track racing and world famous Highland Speedway. Well, my first guest tonight on the Highland Dirt Podcast, we'll bring him up. He is a micro sprint driver, open wheel aficionado, and he has put together quite the show for Saturday night. I see some open wheel car there in the back at Highland Speedway. It's Tyler Robbins. What's up, Tyler?
How we doing? Thanks for having me, Kurt.
Doing good. Well, for those that don't know you, you drive a micro sprint at the track. Your brother does too. You've been in open wheel stuff for a while. Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, that kind of stuff.
I'm born and raised in Collinsville. St. Jacobs is my current residence, so I live about 10 minutes from the track. So, kind of been around racing my whole life. My grandpa raced I forget, back in the 60s, I think. Ironically, he drove for Darren's grandpa back in the day. So, I didn't really know Darren that well until probably 5 or 6 years ago, but we've got to be buddies. But my grandpa did it. He ran Highland, Belleville, Lake Hill, all the tracks back in the day. And then my dad never really did race. He always just kind of he helped a good friend of his, Scott Gieshel, whose stepson races a micro, Kyle Touche. And so my dad never did race. And then whenever I got old enough, he bought me a quarter midget, I think off Marty, of all people. And I think it was Todd Regg's old quarter midget, so it kind of comes full circle. But we started racing quarter midgets in '92, so kind of showing my age there. But starting quarter midgets, did the whole quarter midget deal. We didn't move up as fast as kids do now, so I ran a quarter midget till I was 15, and then the next step was kind of the micro deal. We moved up to micros in '99 and had success. I ran third at the Tulsa Shootout. I've been around it forever. I was there when Power Eye was just Gateway Racing Incorporated with Kenny Brown and Jim Steiner, and then they formed Power Eye the next year, and just kind of went the micro route. And then I think 07 or 08, we bought a midget, did the midget thing until it just kind of got kind of tough for the family teams to do it. I was racing, when Keith only brought 4 or 5 cars, and I brings a heat race. So there was that, and you get to know a lot of people in racing. I mean, I know Zach's been on here, and I've known Zach since he was 5 years old. So you build a bunch of cool relationships with people, and it's been cool to see Zach grow. And then my little brother races, and it's always been a family thing for us. And then I started driving for other people, and I ended up with a sprint car. That kind of just fell in my lap. The guy, Art Pauly, he ended up, he got sick and he passed away, and his wife called me and she was like, "Would you want to buy the sprint car stuff?" And I'm like, "Absolutely not."
Wow.
And she's like, "Well, I don't know where to sell it, who to sell it to, what to ask for it." and Art always spoke really highly of you, and she's like, I think you would enjoy it. So it was stuff that I knew. I grew up racing with Derek Odell, and Derek went the USAC route with Scott Bennick. And then eventually Derek came back home, and Art bought all of Derek's stuff. So I knew the cars. They were older cars, but it's just it's never in a million years that I ever think I'd have a micro sprint, a midget, and a sprint car. And I think I'm crazy for doing all of it, but I always come back to the micros. I really do.
Yeah.
I'm pretty good friends with Chris Bell, and like Chris and I have talked. He's like, you can, with a micro, you can go by yourself. A lot of guys do. You don't have to. They have their own starter, so you can push it in a 12-foot, 16-foot trailer. Take your wife, your girlfriend, and a buddy, and go have fun. And the big thing is it's close to home for me. I've traveled. Did the traveling deal, and I've got 2 kids under 5. I'm very understanding. My wife's very understanding with all these race cars, and now I've started the series. So
yeah, talk about that. Talk about you. So you started promoting your series here in the Midwest.
Yeah, so like I said, I did Power Eye for a little bit. I did Power from the beginning, and it was a badass series. It was it's where a lot of guys learned went up the ranks and learned. And like I said, with the midgets, it just got tough for a family team. It really did. Keith always had good stuff. Brian Clausen, BCI, always had stuff with Tim and his dad, or Brian and his dad Tim, and then now you got Chad Boat and the Mount Stout guys, and it just got to the point where it was hard to do it. And then Power Eye kind of went the non-wing route with the micros, and I kind of saw an opening where I could pick up the ball and kind of bring wing micro racing back. So at the end of the day, micro sprints are just they're so much fun because you can race indoors. So like we get to run a lot of DuQuoins.
Right.
We can run bigger tracks like Highland. But it just always came back to micros, and I started the series myself and Brian Reich with RS12 Motorsports, and Rick Miller, Joe B's dad. So Brian ended up then buying Coles County, so he kind of gave the baton off to Rick and I, and was like, "Here you guys go." So it's our first year. We've had really, really good car counts, but it's just been Rick and I. So. Like Rick's in Knoxville this weekend. So
Gotcha.
Last weekend we were at Wayne City, and I was by myself, and we brought in some good guys. Dwayne Hewlett is taking over our scoring for us, and Jimmy Deering's helped out with us. Eric with Extreme kind of helps me with some stuff, and it's I've got a whole new appreciation for series owners and promoters, but it always kind of goes back to what Sean said. Sean Horseman told us in the drivers' meeting at Highlands, like, I want this to be here for my kids. So there's not a lot of people that, it's a thankless job at sometimes, but it's a job that, you at the end of the night, whenever you saw a great race, you're like, I had a part of that, So.
Well, the micro sprints have been putting on good shows at Highland for a couple, 3 years now. One of the best car counts. They put on good shows, good racing, good. Pretty gentlemanly racing with the micro sprints most of the time. But I think that, you talked about your series, but that leads perfectly into what's going on Saturday night. Big race. Yeah. Probably the biggest micro sprint race ever at Highland, right?
Yeah, highest paying race that I've ever known. I've gotten some pretty good purses with our Larry Westerfield Memorial race.
Yep.
But this is kind of taken on a whole new thing with Freedom of Speech Therapies stepped in, and Morgan and her business, she opened a new branch, and Morgan Ponder, she told me, she's like, hey, I really want to do something cool at Highland, and she's like, I have this autism awareness thing, and I'm like, well, absolutely, let's do it, so.
Yeah, and to let people know, it's the Without Limits 20.
Exactly.
It's a 20-lap feature, paying $4,000 to win, and what's the start money now?
We had another donation come in today, so it's $350 to start now. So, then we're going to do a $100 non-transfer race. So anybody that doesn't make it out of the B is going to get to do an 8-lap shootout for $100 and winner take all. So,
this is going to be the biggest micro sprint race ever at Highland. Going to be huge car count. I mean, with all the extra, it was $3,250 to win. Then you got a $750 anonymous donation to bump it up to $4,000. So yeah, biggest micro sprint race ever at Highland. I mean, $4,000 to win. That's a pretty good payout for any of the classes.
Yeah, no, I mean, that rivals some summer nationals races, you know.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be awesome for Highland. You know, we've got my deal this weekend, and then of course the World of Outlaws coming in. So I'm excited for that.
You know, you're an open wheel guy, but you know, thank you to Tyler Robbins. You've been a big part of helping get the World of Outlaws here. And what do you think about that series coming to Highland? What's that mean for Highland Speedway?
Well, I'm an open wheel guy, so I wish it was the sprint cars, but but
we'll work on that.
Yeah, but no, it's awesome. I mean, Michael Rigsby from Dirt on Dirt and Flo always talks about how we're so fortunate to have some of the best Midwest bull rings in the country, and we've got some great drivers. I mean, Brandon Shepard, Bobby Pierce, all those guys from our area, and Fager can come in there and probably win, and Darren
local guys too. Yep.
Shot, so the Highland can be a great equalizer of a track. It's not an Eldora, where you got to have aero. I mean, I'm sure maybe some guys will maybe turbo come and probably blow the deck out of it or something, but it's going to be exciting. I'm super excited. I'm glad to be a part of it with you and your crew. And, you deserve a lot of the credit too, Kurt. I see a lot of different stuff in my racing now with, series owning to promoting to driving and, being on the board, the track committee board, you see everything that goes into racing, and it makes you have a whole new appreciative for people that are part of it, so.
I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, we're kind of in the same boat there, putting on our promoters hats kind of for the first time, but you work hard and you get good people around you.
Exactly.
And then you can knock it out of the park. But we're excited about the $4,000 to win Without Limits 20. Again, autism awareness event. Great sponsors. Again, throw out the 2 sponsors or the 3 or 4 sponsors that you have for that race.
The main one is the title sponsors, the Freedom of Speech Therapy. They're on Facebook. She just opened a second location. I feel terrible. I don't know where it is. And then of course our sponsor that's been with me since day one is Advantage Nursing with Brandon Schneider and his mom Kathy. They've been the micros presenting sponsors the entire time we've had it. And Kurt Hanning with Hanning Racing Products is doing a $250 hard charger and $250 to win, and he has a full parts trailer, so all gift certificates to him. And then Shane with OSR Bikes also donated some money too. So
if you're a micro sprint, there's not too many reasons in this area not to be at Highland Speedway on Saturday night. That's for sure. So kudos to you for putting this together and getting all that sponsorship money. I mean, what's the total purse you're paying out for this now? Over 15,000?
Yeah, it was over 13,000. I mean, with those last couple donations, we're probably edging 15,000. So
yeah, that's amazing.
I hope to see everybody come out, enjoy the micros, and then of course, we got the Great Wide Open on September 14th. So hopefully we'll attract some late model fans that are going to be at the World of Outlaw late model race to show up for that, and love to come back on and speak with you more about that whenever it comes in. So
yeah, September the 1st, open wheel only show at Highland ever. The Great Wide Open, running the MOA sprints. I believe the Power Eye sprints too, or is that as the Power Eye the midgets?
Power Eye is co-sanctioned with Extreme. So it's just like
Power Eye, the Extreme, and the micro sprints. So running 3 classes, and I heard if you got enough trailer, you're going to be running, maybe going for the trifecta.
If I can, yeah. I mean, I don't know if I'm pushing that 40 age. So I ran both classes last year and made both features, and I think we ran 5th in the Western field, and I think we ran like 12th in the midgets. But any more of the midgets, it's just fun, But I just got to give a shout out to all my people that make this possible for me. Of course, Purpose Wrecker, Premier Kitchen and Bath, Erlinger Crane Service, RS12 Motorsports, Troy Garage Door, the Carpenters Union, D&K Properties, Mass Prop Shop, Horseshoe Restaurant, Freight Ninja, Beacon Funding, Sean at Woodcrest, Brian Thompson Roofing, CJ Auto Body, Image Auto Styling, McClanahan Towing, OST Towing, Kim Stream, First National Bank, Terry's, BM, K&J Design, and then Kurt with Hanning Racing Products. So
it takes a mountain. Yep, takes a mountain of people to make these racing things happen. So thank you to all those sponsors, and we're excited to see how many micro sprints show up. So good luck with the race. Good luck competing as well. You'll be competing, and we'll see you there on Saturday night. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks, Tyler. All right, let's jump right into our next guest. We've been making him wait in the wings. He is a familiar face and voice in the dirt racing world. We got to know him when he was the voice of the Summer Nationals Hell Tour. He's now the voice of the big boys, the World of Outlaws late models, and he's going to be right here at Highland Speedway on Wednesday. It's Ruben Mireles. What's up, Ruben?
Hey, Kurt. Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for having me, man. Hey, Highland Speedway, world famous, man. Thanks for having me on this podcast. Can't wait to be there Wednesday. Pop open an ice cold ski, get to hang out with you again. There it is. Can't wait. Go. First time out. Hey, prayers answered. Prayers answered. Are you
Yes,
you guys
yes.
For it? We're here.
We are gonna touch on that. We're gonna touch on that.
I guess it's safe to say, right? Steve Francis, our series director, St. Francis is answered, right?
Oh man, yeah. I can't wait to see what you come up with on the broadcast. I'm sure there's going to be some interesting quips and lines. We're going to talk about that part too. I've got some of your famous lines I think we get a kick out of. But you've been a busy man, traveling the country, announcing the Outlaws races. How many races have you called so far this year? Are you keeping track?
Actually, it's funny. I was actually just logging off right now. When you asked me if I was ready, I hopped off to look at that. Just the races we've done this year. Obviously, I'm just exclusive to the Outlaws. I don't get to do anything else. Just exclusive to the Outlaws. So what, 37 races we have in, something like that, almost 40. So yeah, that's really all I've done this year. I know it says all, but man, it's been a lot. It's definitely been a fun grind. I thought Summer Nationals was a grind, man. At Summer Nationals, you get in a rhythm and a beat, but I'll tell you what, the Outlaw deal, man, it's a grueling year with the Outlaws, but nonetheless, we've seen great racing every single night.
Yeah. Do you keep track of how many tracks you've been to in your entire career?
So Bedford was my last newest one. That was my 111th career track that I've been to, that I've announced action at. I don't count the tracks that I've just watched a race at. I like to count the ones that I've just physically called a race at. Okay. So 26 different states. I've announced almost 800 races. I'm at 700. I think 87 is the count right now of actual race nights that I've called in my entire career since day one. And then 26 states, 111 different dirt tracks.
Wow. Well, let's back it all the way up. I like to hear origin stories. You got started as a very young man in the announcing game. Somebody gave you a shot at what, like 12 years old?
Yeah.
Where did that happen at?
So it's actually a very fun story, Kurt. Originally from Las Cruces, New Mexico. For those of you that know Garrett Alberson, I was in his wedding. Stormy Scott, Johnny Scott, them guys. That's, if you're a sprint car world, John Carney II, right? Like, he's from El Paso, Texas. That's where I was born. Born in Texas, raised in New Mexico. So it goes way back. 2007. I was only 9 years old at that time. And I'd always work with my dad. Growing up as a little kid, my grandpa always told me, don't ever expect anything given to your hand. You always got to work for what you want. And I've always lived by that. And I still live by that today. You know what I mean? And growing up with my dad, he owned a masonry company, and I'd always go work with him. And I'm telling you what, Kurt, I'm the most boringest person when it comes to talking about movies, TV shows, stuff like that. Because growing up as a kid, I never did. Like, I barely watched the one with the lion, Lion King, like 3 years ago, and everyone talked about the Simba and all that stuff, and I'm like, I never understood what they were talking about, because growing up as a kid, I never watched. I mean, I watched like the Wizard of Oz when I was little. Like,
were you out working? Were you out working with your dad?
Yeah, because I was out with my dad.
Were you laying bricks? What kind of work were you doing?
Yeah, so he's a masonry company, so he builds a bunch of government jobs, regular jobs. Okay. He was actually building a church of all things, and he was building a church, and it was actually delayed. So he would take me every single day, and he took me on that Sunday because they were behind. And the contractor wasn't the regular contractor during the week. It was a Sunday. It was another guy. He said, hey, you can't have your son here. It's child labor. So I was like, man, that sucks. So my dad had to rush me back home. And I finally turned this thing called the TV on. I was always outside, outdoors, doing something. And turns his TV on, and NASCAR's on a Sunday. They're at Talladega of all places, and I'm like, holy cow! Like it was really cool. Jimmy Johnson, I think, ended up winning it because I became a big Jimmy Johnson fan after that. He was like running at the rear and came to win it. It was really, really cool. So I got hooked with his racing thing. So he bought a couple acres across the mountain there in New Mexico, and we were building a shop/house, and came across this advertisement that said El Paso Speedway Park on it, and I'm like, NASCAR doesn't come to El Paso, like. No way they do. Like I've been watching it for a couple years now, but like, nah, no way. So I looked it up, and it was like May at this time. So my dad didn't take me till 4th of July weekend. It took no one in my family likes racing except me. So I finally ended up convincing my dad to take me. It was 4th of July night. There was fireworks. There was sprint cars. Back in the day, it was 305 Renegade sprint cars and all that stuff, and it was hooked. And he's like, "Yeah, it's good for every once a month." And I'm like, "They race every Friday." so we finally ended up going every Friday to El Paso Speedway Park, not El Paso, Illinois, El Paso, Texas.
Right.
And
El Paso, Texas. El Paso, Texas.
Yes,
okay.
El Paso, Texas.
Wow.
Yep, that's where I was born, raised, and all that. Anyway, so then it really lost cruises, but anyway, so you look at a tippy tip of the map, Texas, the little tippy tip part of Texas, that's where I'm. Exit 0, Anthony, New Mexico is really where I'm from. But I claim Las Cruces. Everyone knows where Las Cruces is.
I've driven through that stretch of the country. Yeah, it gets a little desolate between the stops.
Oh yeah, beautiful I-10. Got to land the Oregon Mountains and the Franklin Mountains. Anyway, so we started going every Friday. Well, the announcer then was Brian Holbert, who obviously did ASCS for 12 years and then now is with USAC. Brian Holbert, really good announcer. And he always advertised, "Hey, Saturday night, come join us, Southern New Mexico Speedway." I'm like, there's another Speedway. Heck yeah. So we started going El Paso for the rest of that year, and then Southern New Mexico Speedway every Saturday night after that. So I think it went like 6 years without missing a race. It was like 5 years because that was 2007. And by 2012 is when I became the announcer. So yeah, well, 4 or 5 years. We never missed a race. We missed all but one race. And I remember that night that I missed a race. I was still in my room. I was very upset. I still remember that night, but it's all right.
How'd you make the step? How'd you make the step from fan to announcer?
Yeah, so very fun story. So obviously I became a very super fan. My dad's like, "Well, let's get a race car." Man, we wouldn't know what we'd be doing. You know what I mean? So we ended up sponsoring this driver. His name was Rob Madrid. Rob Madrid, very nice guy. I hope he actually sees this because I don't think I've ever told him the story. But he actually started racing, and I'm telling you, Kurt, when I was a little kid, I didn't root for a car or a driver just because of their paint scheme or their car number or stuff. I really love the story. I love going deep inside, getting the story. Like, where does this guy come from? This guy built his own chassis. This guy basically built his own engines. Like, he did all this stuff by himself. And I was like, man, that's pretty damn impressive. But he was always in the back. He was never really fast. And, low budget. It's only him. It was an all black car.
What did he drive?
Awesome,
sprint car or stock car?
It was an X mod.
Okay.
B mod, basically. So he did that, and he was always in the back, but we always appreciated because he raced clean, right? He always kept his line. He's always good, smooth, clean. And we ended up sponsoring him. His grandparents sat always in front of us in El Paso, older couple, and hope they're doing well today. I haven't talked to him in a while. And in Southern New Mexico Speedway, we used to sit with this lady named Candace. Candace, I'm telling you, Kurt, she was the super fan. She knew everybody that knew what they had for lunch, and what they did that day.
Who won last year? Who won 10 years ago? Yep.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So she was awesome. We'd always sit with her in Southern New Mexico Speedway, and Rob's parents would come and join us and sit there now too. So anyway, long story short, it's championship night. The year later at Southern New Mexico Speedway. This is the end of 2011. It's September, first weekend of September. And Joe, which is Rob's dad, it's championship night. 3 drivers. It was like Rob Madrid, Patrick Carney, and I think it was Patty Rush. 3 awesome local drivers from back home, and they were going at it for the championship. So we're that night there, Kurt, and I'm just there sitting down, and me, Rob, are just talking. His dad, we're talking about Joe. Sorry, his dad. We're just talking about racing. He's like, you want to race? And I'm like, man, I'd love to. He's like, Rob would build you a car right away. And I'm like, no way, really? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, man, that'd be awesome. He's like, but hang on, let me tell you something. You wouldn't be a good race car driver. And I'm like, what? So he literally blew my bubble right away. Like I was cloud 9. I was like, the opportunity's finally here. But the reason he said that was, and remember, I sit with Candace. Candace wasn't a part of this conversation, but she was right next to us listening to the whole thing. The reason he said that was because he told me, now think, I'm in 8th grade at this time. I'm still in middle school. Yeah. He's like, you'd be good for writing the programs. And I'm like, bro, I don't like writing. I don't like journalism. What are you talking about? I'm in 8th grade. What I mean? Like,
that's lame. What do you mean?
Yeah, that's lame, right? Like, no, but the reason he said that, though, is because of what I told you. I always go for the story. I don't like a driver just because of their paint scheme or because they're always winning or their number. I like the story. I like the background, where they come from. You know what I mean? You got to appreciate the story. Like, like a Jimmy Mars. He built his own stuff. He came from where he is. You know what I mean? Like, that's awesome. You know what I mean? Anyway, so like with that being said, that night, Candace, my dad had a bad ankle. So I'd go to the pits every night, Kurt. I'm telling you, like I was that kid. I have Royal Jones, which by the way, Mesilla Valley Transportation. He's on a lot of race cars, World of Outlaws sprint cars, late models, you name it. He was the owner of the 2 racetracks, and he was the main owner. Obviously, I go down there. I'm telling you, I have his autograph probably 1,000 times because I would always go down there every weekend. And he's probably tired of this kid. So we're at the pit gate. Candace takes me down. And Candace is in a circle with the race director, which is Honky, which is Brian Holbert's dad, Brian Holbert's mom, Kathy, and then Brian and Sarah Q, which was the promoter at the time. She's a scorer and all that stuff. And I'm just in my head like, come on, lady. Like, I want to get to the pits and talk to the driver, see the race cars. You know what I mean? And then I'm just waiting patiently until my name pops up in the conversation. She's like, hey, Brian, I know Ruben right here would love to do your job. And I'm like, whoa, no, absolutely not. Like, believe it or not, I'm really shy. I'm honestly a really shy person. And I kind of grown out of that shell just a little bit. But back then you couldn't get a word out of me. I was really, really shy. Yeah. And everyone stopped and kind of like giggled. Like, what? No, like, you can't do it. Okay, you doubt me. I'll prove you wrong. So Brian's like, sure, I'll give you the 2 trophy dashes. Come on up next week. So next following weekend, it was, I think it was September 12th, around that time, September 10th, 11th. And go up to the tower. He's like, wow, you're here. And I'm like, heck yeah, I'm here, Candace. But before that, though, Candace is like, hey, this is the last sprint car heat. Trophy dashes are next. I'm like, oh, man, I got these butterflies. She's like, you better go up there. So I went up there all 32 steps to that tower. I counted them, 32 steps.
I mean, it was almost like on a dare, pretty much, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. It was. And, man, I tell you what, my stomach drops. I walk in. He's like, wow, you're here. And I'm like, heck yeah, let's do it. So he's like, all right, let me finish the sprint car heat race. I'll give you the 4 names, yada, 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 all that stuff. I've been coming to the races again since 2007, hadn't missed a race. I knew how the formats and all that stuff worked. I knew all the driver names. Like, all right, come on over. Race fans, yada, yada. Here's so-and-so, Ruben. He's going to do this. And so he turns off the mic. And Brian's like, all right, here's the sticky note. Here are the 4 names, 4 laps, $100, trophy. And I'm like, okay, I'm good. I did it. And I'm telling you what, I blew the roof off that place, even though there ain't a roof. And then he's all like, all right, let's slow down. Sprint cars are next, though. And he's like, are you sure you got them? They're a little too fast. They'll be fast for you. I'm like, give me the mic. Let's go. So I ended up doing it. And I'm telling you what, man, after that, every single person from the videographer, which was Ed Frazier, the photographer, just everyone kept telling me, you got big shoes to fill, kid. Every weekend, Kurt, gates would open at 5:30. We were there at 5:45, between 5:45 and 6 every single weekend. And everyone kept telling me, you got big shoes to fill, kid. And everyone kept telling me. So I finally got sick and tired of them telling me that. And I was like, what do you guys mean by that? They're like, listen to Brian at the very last race. So Steve Kinzer, obviously Royal Jones, MVT, longtime sponsor, Steve Kinzer. Yep. It's the ASCS National Tour. It was always the second weekend of November 11th, 12th, that weekend. And Steve Kinzer ended up whooping their butts, and Brian Holbert interviews Kinzer. And after that, he's like, well, race fans, I got good news and I got bad news. The good news is the ASCS National Tour has picked me up to be their national announcer. The bad news is I'm no longer your announcer. So everyone's all like, oh, and I'm like, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, it's my turn, baby. Let's go. So I was very happy for Brian. And it's funny because I saw him at Volusia earlier this year because he took over USAC, and it was really good seeing him, catching up with him. But me and Brian really don't talk all that much. I mean, there was really, he passed the mic to me, and I kind of just took off with it there. And it was really good seeing him again. But yeah, that's how I got started.
How old? How old were you at that moment?
I was 12. I was 12. So 2012. I know. And then I turned 13. I know. Then I turned 13 for the rest of the season after that. So
couldn't even have been on the track, but you could be up in the announcer's booth, right?
Yeah. No, literally, it was the craziest thing ever. I actually looked up some old videos, and I'm like, man, I don't know how the heck they let me in the booth, man.
That just shows you, though, at a local dirt track, you know, the people that show up and, you know, if offer to help. I mean, sometimes there's so many stories. I mean, that's my story too. It's not like I was necessarily going out to Highland Speedway. I got to know Sean Horseman, and he got me to start going out there. And I'm a sports fan, so man, I got hooked. I'm like, well, this is a sport that's 3 blocks from my house. Like, I
Yeah.
can just go watch this. I know some of the drivers, and just kind of went from there. But so what's racing like in out there in the southwestern United States? I mean, the tracks, I'm guessing, are pretty few and far between. It's not quite like it is here.
Yeah, it's just it's just the geography of the Southwest, right? They called me the
Yep.
voice of the Southwest for a while, and man, I'll tell you why. Because I drove miles and miles and hours, just busting my butt, just trying to make a name for myself, right? And Kurt, down there, the closest track to us, obviously, Southern New Mexico Speedway was check this out, was 45 minutes from my house. El Paso Speedway Park was 45, and Southern New Mexico was 43. So I was like right in the middle. It was the most craziest thing ever. But
Well,
then
that's actually pretty good.
yeah, it was gnarly. So anyway,
Yeah.
for the people that don't understand, because Wild West Shootout happens out at Vado, so he shut those 2 tracks down just to kind of clear the air here for the fans that are confused. He shut those 2 tracks down. El Paso shut down in 2016. Southern New Mexico Speedway 2019, I believe. Yeah, it had to have been 2019 because Father's Day weekend 2020 is when Vado opened. So Royal shut both of those tracks down. Built one dead middle of both of them, in between El Paso, Texas, and Las Cruces, New Mexico, and that's what Vado Speedway Park is now. I never got to announce a full season there. I just did some work, not much. I really don't get to go out there all that much anymore. But anyway, so yeah, the closest track to us out there now, Kurt, 3 hours north, Albuquerque, New Mexico, which is Sandia, which I think they still run, and then Roswell, New Mexico, which is only 4 hours from us, and then 4 hours was USA Raceway, Tucson International Raceway, which was Tucson. That's when the Winter Extreme used to be there, what was formerly the Wild West Shootout. Now the Wild West Shootout, it was used to be the Winter Extreme. Arizona Speedway, which shut down, which is 5 hours. Peoria Speedway, Peoria, Arizona.
Sure.
Northern Phoenix, that was about 6 hours almost. So yeah, they're pretty far spread out. And then you go out east to Texas. I mean, there wasn't much really out there. Yeah.
So by the time you turn 16, were you burning a trail between all of these?
Oh yeah, man. Oh yeah. I have 250,000 miles on my car because of all the traveling I did back then, man. And it was a lot. So it definitely was a lot of fun. So my first year, Kurt, so my passion for late models came for 2 reasons. Late models back home aren't like the late models that you see in Illinois at all. They're not all that flashy, super. They're more restrictor plate, kind of. They're not real super late models, so to say. They're more limited kind of style stuff. So anyway, they were fun though, but Corey Mole, who ran the CLMA Dirt Car Series back then, that's where Garrett Albertson, Scott Lewis kind of ran. Scott Lewis ran for MLRA Rookie of the Year a couple years ago. Them guys ran, and it was really fun. They'd always come Labor Day weekend to El Paso and Las Cruces, and then make a trip to Tularosa on Sunday, and it was a lot of fun. Corey Mole, based out of Denver, Colorado, he picked me up that first year, 2012, my first year announcing. It was September. He's like, hey, he comes up to me in the middle of the pit area. I'm over here getting my notes and paper and pen. He comes up to me. He's like, hey, what size are you? And I'm like, I'm a large. He's like, well, this is an XL. It should fit you. Here's an official shirt. Put it on. I want you to be my announcer. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, no way, this is happening. So that's where the voice of the Southwest came, because when I didn't have racing going on in El Paso and Las Cruces, I was 100% committed there. I would go to Tucson, Arizona to announce for CLMA. I'd go to Aztec, New Mexico, which is 6 hours. The 4 corners, corners, Aztec, New Mexico right there. Kurt, I didn't have a driver's license. My mom or dad would have to drive me to like Hatch, New Mexico, the capital chili of the world right there. And there was an interchange. You could just sweep on over to Arizona. They dropped me off there and let me just go with Corey. You know what I mean? And me and Corey would just go burn the roads up and just go travel. I'd go to Costa Grande, Arizona, which is in between Phoenix and Tucson there. So it's Cocopah, Arizona, which is basically California. I did all those. I've announced at every racetrack in Arizona except one. New Mexico,
Really?
Shockingly, I haven't announced at all of them. I never did Albuquerque or the one in Cardinal or Roswell. But anyway, I still did a lot of announcing out there. I did Colorado. My first year went out to Kansas. We got rained out. Garrett Albertson, Scott Lewis were going for a championship. I got to do that. Yeah, man, very fortunate. And then my high school job was to work for Garrett Albertson in the shop. So I was a tire guy for 6 months straight. I did it for 4 years, but for 6 months straight, I was just a tire guy. So I learned how to sipe, mount, dismount, groove, the bead lock. So I know everything about a late model tire. Like
the things people don't know about Ruben Mireles is that he knows something about working on the cars too.
Yeah. So yeah, that's where my passion for late models came. And then Garrett, Dave Dietz was the car owner at the time. If you go back and look up Garrett Albertson, it's actually a 43 car. And that's the car that he ran for the longest time. He did that Wild West Shootout with Dave Dietz. And I actually crewed for him a little bit at the Wild West Shootout before I started announcing out there in Arizona. And I stayed with him in the toter and stuff like that. But yeah, I one time they got a brand new J. Dickens and it had blue. It refreshed and it had blue. And well, they needed to ship it back quick. So I was working at the shop. We took the fenders off and he got on the driver's side and I got on the right side. He's like, all right, I pull one rod out, you pull the other one. I pull one piston, you pull one piston. So here I am disassembling a whole engine. And I took automotive at high school, so I know about the engines and stuff like that too. So yeah, and he taught me all about the shocks and body work and everything about a late model. So that's where my passion really, really comes from.
Huh. So then, I mean, you did that. You bounced around the West, 250,000 miles on the car, hitchhiking all around the state before you were 16. Not really, but sort of. And so how did that turn into, I think, when did you start announcing for the Summer Nationals?
Yeah, so it's December 17th, 2017. I think it was the 17th. I got to go back and look, but it's December 2017.
Yeah.
I get a phone call. It's Rick Eshelman. So flashback 3 years, 2014. Again, the Wild West Shootout used to be called the Winter Extreme. I used to work with Ben Shelton and Dustin Jarrett and all them out there. I'm really good buddies with them and still am. And before I did any late model stuff, I'd always announce the Hornets, the B mods, all the support divisions. I did some modified stuff here and there. If Chris Steppen wasn't doing it then back then, but I kind of cut my teeth kind of doing that. You know what I mean? And I, again, nothing wrong with it. I'd still announce a Hornet race if I could. You know what I mean? I love me a good Hornet race or stock car modified race. So
hey, we might pull you in. We might pull you in for a little bit of the modified version. We're running 2 classes at the Outlaws. So yeah, you know the modified stuff there too.
Yeah.
I mean, so
and it's live on Dirt Vision too. So anyway, what was the saying though? So in 2014, when I was working that event, I'd met Rick Eshelman. That was when he had departed the Outlaws and did the NDRL, that NDRL deal for a little while. So Rick Eshelman was announcing out there. And I'm like, holy crap, it's Rick Eshelman. Like, this is big. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I knew who he was. I was a late model guy. I followed Dirt on Dirt and I watched all that stuff and listened to him on the free audio on Dirt Vision back in the day and stuff. And I'm like, this is big, man. So I got to know him. And every single year he called me saying happy birthday, Merry Christmas, all this stuff. We just kept in touch. So he calls me December 17th, 2017. And he's like, hey, what exit do you live on? I'm like, exit 0. He's like, stop at the Flying J. I'll be there in 5 minutes. I'm like, holy crap. Okay. Okay. So I go to the Flying J. He's like, hey, I'm driving this car to Phoenix. And Phoenix is only, how I said, 5.5 hours. He's like, I'll be back here tomorrow. Let's go for lunch. I'm like, all right, cool. So I go back home and I'm just ecstatic. Like the Rick Eshelman just stopped.
Right. You're like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah, what the
here?
heck? This is cool. So I take him to lunch next day. This is mom and pop place. Awesome Mexican food there in New Mexico. And he's like, hey, man. We sit down and he's like, hey, I'm just getting too old for this crap. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, Summer Nationals, it's rough. I can't do it anymore. You want to do it? And I'm like, dude, like me and Garrett Albertson would work on cars all day and then go watch the Summer Nationals right after. Like I'd literally get out of school. And I got out of school because it was during the summer, but get out of school, go to Garrett's shop all the time. We'd watch highlights. And then during the summer, we'd work all day and then go watch the Summer Nationals race at night on Dirt. Like that was the biggest thing for us. And then Eshelman is here offering me the Summer Nationals. I'm like, this is the most craziest, bizarre thing ever. I'm like, am I dreaming right now? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, this is crazy. So
you were how old? You were how old at this time, just to be clear?
2000, let's see.
17?
I was, it was 2018. So I was 19. I was 19.
Yeah, I mean, we're not trying to do the math and figure out but it's it's like, okay, 19 years old. Yeah, Rick Eshelman. I mean, that's
it's pretty cool. And so Kelly Carlton, and I'll give credit to Kelly Carlton, it's still on Dirt on Dirt. If you go to Dirt on Dirt all the way to the bottom, on the bottom left, it's I think it's not Dirt Reporters. It's they have a column. Dave Argabright, Kelly Carlton, they all rate stories. And I actually went back and looked at it the other day, and it's still there. Kelly Carlton wrote a story on me right before that. So the first thing Eshelman said is, I've heard a lot about you. This is 2014 still. He's like, I've heard a lot about you. There's a lot of buzz about this kid announcing out here in the Southwest. We'll see what you're made of this weekend. And I'll tell you what, I must have made a good impression because he really, really did like me a lot. And fast forward to 2017, he's like, listen, I've been following you for a couple of years now. You're doing a really good job. And I feel like you need a true you need a break. You need a true opportunity. So come do the Summer Nationals. Kurt, I'd never been to Eastern time zone in my life. He literally just told me, he's like, call Sam Driggers, the main guy from Dirt Car. He's like, call Sam and get a flight to North Carolina go to the office.
Cigarette Sam
Yeah.
Driggers.
Yeah,
Nick Hoffman did a minute for the Hell Tour. It was hilarious. He goes, here rolls up cigarette Sam Driggers.
Yeah.
Smoke rolling out the
I
window.
love it. Yeah, Nick does the best impressions. But yeah, so I went to the office, met the crew, and dude, off from there. I showed up to Peoria Speedway, very first ever race, 2018.
So Peoria was your first one. I've been to a couple.
I've
been a couple Hell Tour. I went there this year actually again.
Yep. Our season usually started at Peoria or Brownstown, and that year started at Peoria. I just kind of took off with it, man. I just did what I, normally did. Just go and gather my notes and just focus on me and do that. And I knew nobody, man. You know what I mean?
17.
Yeah, I knew who Jason Fager was. I knew who Shannon Babb was. Your Frank Heckenest, your, the big name guys, and I was just starstruck that I'm here, right? Like I'm a race fan, right? Like holy cow, like I'm here. So yeah, thankfully to Rick Eshelman, he's the one that gave it to me in 2017, going into 18. So I took it the first year in 18, did it for 5 whole years, and the World of Outlaws had never had a pit reporter. Obviously, Dirt Vision expanded their production, big screen at the racetrack, the production of the the broadcast itself, and they ended up with pit reporters. Rick said, "Hey, I want Ruben to be the first pit reporter," and thankfully I had that opportunity. I think it was 2020, and just kind of snowballed from there, man. And I've been very, very fortunate.
Yeah, because I think the last race you called here might have been, was it Summer Nationals?
It was 2 years ago.
Yeah. So wow. Yeah,
2022 was my last year of Summer Nationals.
Okay, so that would have been Shepherd, I think, when Brandon Shepherd won.
Yeah.
You were here in 2020, because 2020 was probably our biggest crowd ever up until last year at Summer Nationals. So yeah, 2020 Summer Nationals, right before everything got shut down, we had a huge race that year. But yeah, I think that's when we met. I think was about 2020 at the race there when I was helping out at the track, and kind of stayed in touch. And I got to give you credit, for getting the World of Outlaws here. I've been bugging Steve Francis for like 2 years, sending him. Somebody gave me his number. They never should have, because I'll bug somebody. But I was texting him. I'd send him, video clips, and he never responded. And then one day, and I was like, hey, if you ever talk to Steve, mention Highland Speedway. And I'd tell that to Bobby Pierce and to Brandon Shepherd, and we kind of triangulated.
I'm not taking any credit here, but you did text me, hey, what do I got to do I could screenshot the messages. We have the receipts, right? This is what people don't know behind the scenes, right? Like obviously I know a lot that's happening behind the scenes that isn't public yet, or that is going to be public. Like you know a lot of things, right? Like Steve has done a great job with the Outlaws, and there's an entire list of tracks I would love to host the Outlaws, and it's just so hard to get everyone a race, right? It's tough, but I love the Summer Nationals. I love what I do now, and I want to do the Summer Nationals again before it's all said and done down the road. But I love Highland. I really do. And you texted me, you're like, hey, what do I got to do to get a race for the Outlaws here? And I'm like, Kurt, I love me Highland Speedway. Let me work some magic. And then I texted you Steve's number, and and then it just kind of snowballed from there. So I was really happy.
The Rusty Griffaw prayer last year at Summer Nationals, and we're calling him Saint Steve Francis, right?
I think that's what it was.
Yeah, I think that's what you said. We were chatting earlier, and I think you said St. Francis saved us all. But no, man, I think man, we're so excited about that. But talk about life on the road. What about the Hell Tour? What were the best and worst parts about the Hell Tour?
The worst parts were like your long drive, like from Springfield, Missouri to Clarksville, 6-hour drive. You got to sleep somewhere in between, right? Like, I mean,
and you're leaving the track maybe at 11, 11 o'clock, midnight,
right? Yeah. Yep. So, you know what I mean? Yeah, around 11. So you get, drive overnight, you stay somewhere at 3 a.m. and you get back up at 8 a.m. to drive the rest of the way. And, that's really nothing, right? I mean, granted, I didn't drive the truck back then. It was all Eric Grigsby. I get to snooze a little bit in the back seat. But, I mean, for the most part, still, those were probably the roughest parts. Like, a lot of people don't realize how much of a grind it really is. Like I have
sleeping in the truck, going without showers, sweating it out, sweating through 10 shirts every day. Yeah, it's going to be grueling.
Yeah, exactly. And having 4 guys in a truck all summer long,
doing laundry. I mean, what? All the stuff that goes into that.
We made so much fun out of it. And listen, nothing against the Summer Nationals crew now. I'm sure they are phenomenal. I'm sure they're great. But man, I'm telling you what, we had the best Summer Nationals crew, man. We're at laundromats, we're playing Uno, we're playing left, right, center. Like, we're just having a ball, man. We always had a ball. Like at lunch, dinner, we're always having a good time. We were, the hotel lobbies, we owned these hotel lobbies, man. Always playing Uno, left, right, center, or phase 10. Like we turn on the Outlaws on nights that we were off and they were on, and we'd watch, and it was a
lot of
time.
bonding. I mean, yeah, you make connections that way.
Yeah, definitely. That was the toughest part, honestly. Just like the living out of a suitcase for 2.5 months, 3 months, you know what I mean? And just, eating out every day. You try to eat the best you can, but sometimes it doesn't, fall like that.
How
But
many,
the fun
how many
part,
Casey's, how many Casey's are you eating at, right?
Yeah, how many Casey's my Casey's pizza count, my counter.
Oh, you can only eat so much Casey's pizza before.
Well, and then you go down to like Highland Peebly, you get some emos, so it's okay, right?
Yeah, no comment.
But,
no comment there.
Okay,
I don't want to lose a potential sponsor. So
that's right. Anyway, that was not sponsored, by the way. Anyway, so we'd go down the road, but no, it's fun, man. Just seeing all these new racetracks, seeing all the racing,
Yep.
And that's the thing about Summer Nationals. Every single night, I don't care whether you're at Highland or whether you're at Spoon, Fairbury, or you're in Michigan or in Indiana. Like, the racing's always fun in Summer Nationals, and that was the best part. Just going up and down the road, making the connection with the drivers, right? Like, we're at Arby's one night, and Bob Gardner's like right in front of us, and he's just making a joke. He's like, man, only if we had an enthusiastic announcer, just giving me crap because he knows I'm very enthusiastic and all that. So it's really cool to make those connections with those guys, right? And just getting to know them, and that's probably the best part about it.
Yep. Well, what about life on the road now? What does kind of a week on the Outlaws tour look like? I mean, you kind of come in a day or two before. What's kind of your prep work as you're leading up to the event? What does that work consist of? What's it look like?
Yeah, so definitely a lot of prep work goes into it. So, for example, Highland Speedway, right? Looking at it, the Outlaws have never been there, so not much history work really to be done there. But definitely look at the past Summer National races. Kind of just look at who's won there. We all know Jason Fager's really good there. A guy that I feel like I always throw the announcer's jinx there, Darren Klein. I think Darren Klein is very talented when we go to Highland or when we go to Peevely. Like, he's a guy that I feel that can get a national win anytime we roll around that area. So, just kind of looking at the strong kind of guys there, looking like, some underdogs, right? Like your Jacobers, some of them guys, like if they make a show, it's good start money, right? So
Sure.
kind of just, doing that kind of stuff. And then, get ready for Spoon River and Macoka and all that. So kind of just making a big old driver list. I call drivers and ask them, hey, are you coming to race at Highland? Or are you coming to Spoon? I'm getting ready to start that tomorrow. So, that's kind of my prep work going into it. I do contingency stuff with the Outlaws on the side.
Okay.
I do contingency work, paperwork and stuff like that, and communicate with our scorer, do little things like that. Just kind of work on some stats and stuff like that. Like, let's say this was a long time race, right? Let's say this is the 40th time, for example, if the Outlaws were going there, I'd, go in there and try to get some really good notes and stats, and just, it's really time consuming, but,
who's won this many times? Who was the first winner? Who was,
who's come from deep, or just interesting notes, right? Like, maybe Nick Hoffman's ran in a Longhorn, a Rocket, a Bloomquist, and now he's in something, I don't know, it's just random stuff like that, or I don't know, just try to find the best that I can, because, at the end of the day, I'm not the show. It's all the drivers. The drivers are 100% the show, but these fans pay a lot of money for subscriptions, for tickets, for travel. And that's why I just try to put my best foot forward and try to find the interesting, juicy storylines, stories, and stats and stuff like that. So that's kind of the preparation for it. Really, my big Outlaw, stat book and all that stuff is really done thanks to Kate Sharp, and we've put a lot of time into that. But
and that never leaves your side. That's
no. So really, that's really the big focus right now. All my focus is Highland, Spoon, and Macoka right now. Just getting driver info, for example, like if, I'm going to contact Darren Klein. I haven't announced him. It's in Summer National. It'd be call, hey, are you still in this chassis engine sponsors? Kind of just chat with him a little bit. Hey, what's going on? Kind of translate some of that stuff into the broadcast come Wednesday night.
Yeah. But what about getting your voice ready, like prep work like that, warming up? I mean, is there things that you drink or eat on the day of the race? Do you have superstitions? Things that you do and do your kind of habits. What goes on then?
I'm a very superstitious person, but obviously I don't know. I kind of just let that stuff kind of go now. I'm kind of just forget about all that. Just kind of just roll the punches. Honestly, No, really nothing with a voice. Thank God. Knock on wood. Knocking on wood. I mean, everything's good. I don't
Yep.
do any warming up. Honestly, one of the biggest things I do though is breathing exercises.
Okay.
I was in marching band all high school, college, and
Yeah,
New
I remember
Mexico
you
State.
post some content
Yeah.
about that. Yeah, about
Oh yeah.
visiting some
Oh
marching
yeah.
band competitions, and yep.
Oh yeah. So I kind of breathing says you breathe in for 4, you hold for 4, and then you breathe out for 4, and then you kind of repeat for that. You breathe in for 4, hold for 4, and then you breathe out for 8, and then you do the same thing, then breathe out for 16, just keeping a steady airflow to the palm of your hand, and that just helps air wise, keeping more air in the tank. I think that's a big thing there. Other than that, voice wise, no, not really. I mean. It sounds weird, but like if you were to ask me right now to announce, I really couldn't do it. I mean I could do it, but like it's just something about when the drivers meeting is happening and then you hear those engines fire
The
and it's
switch
like
just
holy
turns.
crap. I put my radio on, I put my headset on, and it's like it's showtime, man. Like
You get in the zone.
yeah, you just get in the zone. The butterflies go on, and it's just like, all right, let's go. You know what I mean? I'm ready. So it's just one of them deals. But yeah, I mean, really it's just all preparation for me. I don't like going into a race not prepared. I
Yep.
want to know what I'm talking about. I want to know, accurate stats, 100% honest stories and news and just making sure we're on the same page. So,
Well, you're
no,
obviously prepared. I mean, we were talking before. How do you do it? Explain me how you do it with the sponsors. I mean, do you have it on a laptop, multiple screens in front of you? Because you can go a mile a minute with these sponsors. Let me tell you. I mean, it's amazing. It's like, so talk me through like when you see Jason Fager kind of coming in for coming around. What are you doing physically to kind of see all that and make that happen?
Yeah, so I wish I could pull it up on here, but it's really cool. I will show you at Highland, but for
Sure.
those of you in the podcast, I will do the best visual I can. So obviously, with my laptop's like my number one thing. If someone steals that, I'm screwed. My laptop is Excel file. Chris Steppen
Sure.
actually is the one that handed down this file to me. And it's an Excel VLOOKUP. If you just look up on YouTube, VLOOKUP.
Okay.
I mean, in college, actually, I could build it myself now. It's a VLOOKUP file. It's really, really cool. So it's a VLOOKUP. I have a whole sheet. On the blank sheet, on the Excel files, there's tile that has driver, car number, driver, hometown, chassis, engine, and I could put up to 10 sponsors. And then I could put like accomplishments, stuff like that. And like for me, I've kind of modified it to put how many World of Outlaw starts they have. How many World of Outlaw wins do they have? What's their best Outlaw finish? Do they have any track championships or regional championships? So, for example, you brought up Jason Fager. Let's talk about Jason Fager. So, on my file, I'll put 25. I'll type 25 on my computer, and I'll push the up button on a different screen, and it shows it all down because it's a VLOOKUP file. So, like all the information will pop up. If I put B5 and push up, Brandon Shepard, New Berlin, Illinois, all the information pops up. So it's all in front of me now. But at the end of the day, it's kind of become memory. So I kind of know those guys by memory. So like, for example, Jason Fager will pull on at the Speedway, the digital copy systems, Floyd Waste Services, Roster Battery, yada, yada, yada. You know what I mean? I just start listing them all right down the road. So it's just articulation too, right? Like you can't get tongue twisted. You know what I mean? It's just all, and marching band helped me with that. I was a woodwind saxophone player. I was also a baritone player, a trumpet player, and I can play all this. So it's all articulation. So like if you could just articulate, it's all using the tongue. If you can use your tongue and articulate, you can speak faster and put spaces in between things and just get more information in there. It's all articulation. Something that a lot of people really will never realize or really think about, but it's something that I think about from a musical standpoint to translate it to a broadcasting standpoint. It's all articulation. But yeah, I just basically read it all the way through on the thing. So I go, for example, let's say you're Kurt Vonder Haar, car number, I don't know, whatever. Car
22.
Car number 22. Car number 22, Kurt Vonder Haar, Highland, Illinois, Rocket, Durham, and then you have all your sponsors. You know what I mean? So I will go to you, write it all down if I didn't call you during the week or whatever, but whatever. I make sure it's all typed in my computer. I put on my VLOOKUP file. When I type in 22 and push up, Kurt Vonder Haar, Highland, Illinois, yada yada. It all pops up on my screen, and that's how I did in qualifying.
So what if you have multiple? If you have multiple 22s, what is there? You have more than one.
So perfect. And 20. Oh my God, this conversation is meant to be because 22 is the biggest pain in the butt number for me.
Oh yeah.
So like Pennsylvania. Well, 22 is going to be a pain in the butt there too because of what's his name, number 22 car there. Anyway, Pennsylvania, 22S. So my program I can't do star. So Max McLaughlin, our MD3 Rookie of the Year contender, I do 22S for star. When I put 22 star, it pops up as Max McLaughlin. When I put 22, it's Greg Satterley. When I put 22 or B22, it's Bump Headman. When I do 22 SS, that's a GR Smith. When I do 22, I don't know.
So you have to kind of remember. You have to kind of remember those little prompts.
Yeah. And thankfully, I'm at registration with the World of Outlaws. So that's a new role that I've taken on. Summer Nationals, I used to never do registration. I just go walk and get my information. With the World of Outlaws, I'm at the command center. I'm doing registration, and
they all have to come talk to you anyway. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. So our scorer, Jeff, does a great job, and he cooperates with me. I always go based off last name. So, for example, Chase Younghands, Shannon Babb. They're both 18 cars. Shannon Babb will more than likely be 18. Chase Younghands, 18J, or you know what I mean? So we always go based off last name, stuff like that, and we just make it work. Like Bobby Pierce, Chris Simpson, right? Bobby Pierce is 32, Chris Simpson, 32S. It's just one of the things you just come familiar with, and just it's always based off the first initial of the last name.
Well, that's an interesting peek into the world of announcing because, when I'm watching this on my big screen behind me, I'm watching the race and you're rattling off, baba, baba, baba. I'm like, how the heck? Even when you're pulling it up, again, that's a skill. Yeah. And again, you said you kind of have that muscle memory probably and all that. But it's just, I think that's really cool the way you're able to do that. Hey, I want to talk about a race that was recent, the Prairie Dirt Classic. Wow, what a finish, a couple weekends ago with Pierce passing Hoffman on the last lap to win it. How many PDCs have you been to?
Since 2018. So
okay,
that's what's that? So I've been to 7 of them. That was my 7th one.
Okay, and I've been to Fairbury twice, never for the PDC, but for people that haven't made the trip up there, I mean, the PDC is like the ultimate destination for a dirt racing fan. I mean, you got a full week of activities. You had a flow race, you had a golf tournament, you got 2 nights of the Outlaws, right? I mean, how much sleep do you get during the PDC?
Do you want the honest answer? Or?
Yeah, let's hear it. No, all about the honesty on the Highland Dirt Podcast.
No, we have a good time. But listen, when you're hanging out with Gordy Gundaker, not much. But
he'll be here. He'll be here for the World of Outlaws. Absolutely. He announced he's coming. He's coming to Highland. So he was here once earlier this year. I think him and Darren are friends. Darren Klein. Yep. And I like Gordy. I actually tried to call Tammy a couple times. We're trying to make sure she gets over here for the Outlaws race. So Tammy, if you're listening out there, give me a call back. I've left you a couple messages last week. We want to make sure you're coming for the Outlaws race there. We play nice in the sandbox with all the promoters. So, so you don't have to say how much sleep, but it sounds like not much.
No.
How long does it take you to recover? I mean, that's a long recovery then.
It's funny because some of our crew went to Knoxville Nationals, which is live on Dirt Vision as well now. And I'm like, man, I don't know how you do it. Like after PDC and USA Nationals back to back, I was wore out last year.
You need like a 5-day nap.
I was wore out this year. I was actually in bed by 11:30 every single night, basically, of Cedar Lake. Really, I was. And I didn't really, I was more focused and stuff like that. PDC just always gets the best of me. But PDC is really fun. I go to bed early, probably midnight or 1, but you hang out. It's definitely a good time, but it's just a gruel. It's a grind. It's a grind. You're up at, 8:30, 9 a.m. every morning and go up there, turn the sound system on. You're welcoming fans at 10 a.m. and you're ready to go for the day. The pits are rolling and cars are unloading. You go and make sure you get everything, storyline stuff like that. But no, PDC, man, it's a good time because Wednesday, you had the flow race, which is a good time. Guys hang out after, and then the next day you have the golf outing, and then not to mention the charity auction for the Shriners kids that night as well. Matt Curl and Michael Ritzby do a great job. They feed everyone with a dinner. That was really good. And PDC is just I don't know how to explain it. You know what I mean? It's just it's its own animal.
Then you were up at Cedar Lake for the Outlaws. Yep. Man, I was texting you. Sometimes I'll shoot you a message every once in a while, and you responded that. But I remember I was like, what a fireworks show.
Yeah.
Cedar Lake.
No joke.
I mean,
and you know what's crazy about that? If you thought that was good, you should see their 4th of July show when the World of Outlaws sprint cars are there. That fireworks show, they tell me, is like 10 times bigger.
Oh, I mean, I was watching the whole budget for our World of Outlaws show go up in fireworks. I think that's what I sent you. I'm like, they have to spend $100,000 plus. I mean, it was just because it went off and it's going off, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's going to end in a little bit. And I mean, it went for 15, 20, 25 minutes of just pow, 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 pow. I mean, nonstop. I mean, it had to all be electronic. I mean, I'm sure they used a professional company. I mean, you get to see some cool things and cool tracks like that. Cedar Lake has to be a pretty cool facility.
Oh yeah, Cedar Lake is one of my favorites. I mean, it just feels like an event, right? They have so many campground spots. Every single one is sold out. They have a massive back straightaway grandstand, the front straightaway grandstand. I mean, that place is just, I don't know. There's something about Cedar Lake when you roll in, man. It bleeds dirt track racing. Like it just, I don't know what it is, man. You walk into this, it feels like a big time venue. And
it does. That's what I just thought. Big time. It feels like
yeah,
a big time. I haven't been there, but when I saw it, I was like, wow, like that looks, that's impressive. But well, we've talked about that, but let's talk about maybe other announcers. It's your craft. I'm sure there's ones that you admire. Who would maybe be your 4 announcers? And, got to limit it to 4 that maybe you would put on your Mount Rushmore of dirt racing announcers.
Ooh, that's a good question. No one's ever asked me that one. Obviously Rick Eshelman, number 1. Rick Eshelman will always, in my eyes, be the GOAT. He's the greatest. And me and Rick had a talk before, all went down. He told me, he's like, I told him one time, I was like, I wish I could be as funny and entertaining as you can. He's like, really? And I'm like, yeah. Like, I wish I could just throw a random one-liner like you do. Like, those were awesome, right? Like, I'm not a funny person. I will admit it. I'm not funny. That's why I have to work my ass off to do stats and sound.
Make up for it with the passion and with the
Yep, I'm very passionate because and that's one thing he told me. He's like, dude, really? Like, I wish I was kind of like you. Like, I love how you just bring the knowledge, like just the stats and the enthusiasm. Like, that's one thing that he just, the enthusiasm. I'm like, I appreciate it. I guess that's something cool. I guess, like, I want to be like you. You know what I mean? It's like, no, like, you keep being you. And he liked what I did. So, yeah, Rick Eshelman, number 1, definitely there. I really, really, really respect Dustin Jarrett. I've always liked Dustin Jarrett.
Yeah, DJ.
Dustin Jarrett's really, really good. But man, if you want to go Mount Rushmore, I mean, you gotta pick out some legends from back then, right? I mean, holy cow! I mean, there's some great announcers from back then.
It's your Mount Rushmore. It can be somebody from the Southwest that you looked up to. I mean, it can.
So Brian Holbert. Okay, so my official Mount Rushmore. Rick Eshelman, number 1. Brian Holbert, definitely one. Brian Holbert's one of the best announcers there is. He's just so smooth, so good. For those of you that don't know him, he did the Chili Bowl, I think, for the house for the longest time. I think still does it. Hopefully he does. He's doing USAC now. Go check out some of his highlights. He did ASCS for 12 years. Holbert's really good, very clean, professional. Taught me a lot, paved the way for me. Dustin Jarrett's really good, man. I have nothing but utmost respect for DJ, not only as an announcer, but as a person, right? Like, I know people build perceptions and stuff like that, and I want you to know, if you've built a perception of me and it's a bad one, please squash that. I've had people come, actually, funny story, I had a guy come up to me at Cedar Lake, Kurt. He's like, man, Ruben, I'm so nervous to meet you, but I want to meet you so bad. And I'm like, why is that? He's like, I'm just scared you're going to be an a-hole, man. Like, I just hope you're a cool deal. I sat down and talked to him for like 12 minutes.
I know.
Like,
it's amazing.
Awesome.
Sometimes people they do. And, it happens to all of us. They look at you, they listen to you talk, and they think, man, like, what a blah, 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 blah. And then they actually meet you, and they're like, oh, he's actually a nice guy. Like,
like, so wow. I you know what I mean? Like, I always say, I could not have $1 in my bank account, but guess what? It's always free to be a good person. You can be a millionaire. 100%. You can be the poorest person in the world. You can be the richest person in the world. It don't matter.
That's probably why we get along. I think you're a nice person. You're very generous with your time and efforts, and I try and be the same way. And so I think that's why we networked and got to know each other and kept in touch. And look what we're doing now, man. We are bringing World of Outlaws to freaking Highland. Like, it's crazy to think about.
It's gonna be awesome. So and that's what I admire about Dustin Jarrett. He's just a great guy off as well. And,
so we got 3. We got 3. Who's your 4th? Pressure's on.
Oh man, that's a tough one, Kurt. That's a
and
tough
you can give some honorable mentions. There can be honorable mentions too. Okay.
Johnny Gibson is the GOAT, man. I grew up listening to Johnny Gibson. Royal actually told me, listen, you got to listen to Johnny Gibson. Take notes when there's a caution, when there's a red, when there's something happens, when there's something in the procedural things happen. He will explain everything that happens, and he never leaves you scratching your head. And that's one thing that I really try to work on, man. And when something happens, I try to explain the World of Outlaw rule. I try to explain what race control is doing, what scoring is doing, what the call was. Johnny Gibson's that guy. You know what I mean? He's precise. He's clean. A lot of people, love Johnny Gibson. He's a Hall of Famer, man. So, I mean, you got to put both outlaw voices in there, right? I mean, the Outlaws is as best as it gets, right? And
Yeah.
I really love Rick Eshelman. I love Johnny Gibson and Brian Holbert because he paved the way for me, and Dustin Jarrett's really, really awesome. So that would be my 4.
When you're talking about things going on in the press box, so going back to kind of your Summer Nationals days, I always think, and this probably happened to you a lot, and I just think it's hilarious when you don't have a sterile press box, right? And you've got the people yelling in the guy to the right drivers in the race, you get in line 68, ba 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 ba, and here you are trying to announce, and then boom, you shut off the mic for a little bit and just go silent, and I go, yeah, they're chewing somebody out right now.
Yeah, obviously there's no hiding that, right? I mean, you can hear it. And let's clear one thing right here. So people thought I was clapping in the tower at Fairbury.
Oh yeah.
Because there's clapping in the background, stuff like that.
Geez.
And race control, Cedar Lake, same thing, right? Like the officials there, they're very passionate. They'll start clapping, and you can hear that in the background.
Ours too. Same.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't clap for anybody. I don't, during a race, anything like that. I'm actually very quiet, very respectful.
Well, you're trying to control the audio too, and you know that
exactly. So
I'm doing this. I mean,
so people will think I'm the one doing it. I'm like, yeah, okay, here I am announcing clapping. No, that's not what I do, and that's not what I want to do. So there's just a lot of background noise. Dirt tracks, right? And dirt tracks are phenomenal, but it's your NASCAR venues, you have specific rooms for broadcasting, and you have specific rooms for race control and TV and radio.
Let's talk about the Highland Speedway press box. It's like one of those circus cars when you open the door and like 20 people come out, and you're like, how'd they all fit in there? Because I've looked in there when you're in there for like Summer Nationals, and poor Doug Jenkins is sitting sideways. The one thing we did change, the door opens out now. So
good.
Hey, I mean, it's like hallelujah. Right?
I'll clap for that.
It's a process. We've got some other things we're trying to do, and fixing the press box is one of them. Hasn't gotten done yet, but we're aware, and I'm sure you deal with way worse and way better, right?
Well, hey, it's not Highland Speedway is awesome.
You were about to name another track that's not great, that has a bad press box, but it's okay. We've all been to them, man. We are really lucky at Highland. We may have a small press box, right? But I tell you what, our facility, as far as having the covered grandstand, the concessions underneath, we're so lucky with our Madison County Fairgrounds. It's been there 150 years. The Madison County Fairgrounds has. The stadium's been there 63 years. We're so lucky with that facility. I mean, it may not be like a Cedar Lake. Cedar Lake, man, it's like, wow. But, when you walk up to Highland.
Highland, though. It's this little bull ring, in the middle of town, like that
in the valley, kind of carved into the trees, and
you're pulling in. There's a public swimming pool right there. Yes. Kids running around, families having a good time, and the next thing you go down the hill, there's a dirt track there. Like, dude, that is cool.
And you see some of the guys. You should see when guys get lost and Tomas Hunziker, poor guy, last year, he got on one of the side streets and was on the road that goes down to the pits. And you got to stay on that one road. He got on somehow on a side street, was trying to turn onto that downhill road, and got hung up during the Summer Nationals. Yeah, poor Tomas is going to be back. He's doing a big thing for the Wild West Shootout, right?
Yes, I saw Wednesday.
Yeah, he's covering all the general admission tickets. That's awesome. Well,
Ruben. Thank you to him.
Well, Ruben, we're hitting that sweet spot as far as the time, but I want to talk about one more thing. In just a few days, I think it's maybe 6, maybe 5 if you're watching this tomorrow. But the World of Outlaws Late Models, your series, coming to Highland for the first time, Beat the Heat 40 by Bello. So let's talk about that a little bit. Again, we talked about the prayer, St. Steve Francis, answering our prayers and getting it here. But let's talk about what's like the prestige and honor of having the World of Outlaws at your track. Talk about that.
I mean, obviously, it's the World of Outlaws, right? You have the best dirt late model drivers in the country. These guys go up and down the road. You watch them if you don't watch on Dirt Vision every single weekend, you see them at some point in a highlight on social media, right? When something happens, and these guys are heroes, right? Like these guys, they're the professional in dirt late model racing. They are, and it's the pinnacle, right? So it's really cool. It's Illinois. So it's really cool to see your Dennis Erb Jr., your Brandon Shepard, your Brian Shirley, your Bobby Pierce, come back to home. It's going to feel like a Summer Nationals night, but man, it's an outlaw night, man. And the World of Outlaws, I'm telling you what right now, our presentation second to none. We bring a big screen to the racetrack.
Yes,
We give you Dirt Vision replays at the racetrack. We give you
we love the TV. We love the big screen.
Oh yeah. Hannah Newhouse does her pre-race, and we used to not do that live at the racetrack because we not have the highlights and other interviews with the drivers. So it'd be kind of awkward to, hey, we talked to Brandon Shepard earlier, and then we tossed to Shepard, and then there's no audio to the grandstands, right? But now we have all that figured out where the pre-race is at the track. Hannah kicks it off. She has her 3 case files and interviews and highlights, and we put that on the big screen. Too. Yeah. Oh, Hannah's great. And obviously throughout the night, Dirt Vision replays. You have all that stuff. Our fan experience, when you show up there, whether it be Amanda Taylor or Macy or all the other Jasmine, all the other girls, go visit them.
Yep.
They do a great job. Sign up for Be an Outlaw, Be an Outlaw program. You'll have, if you sign up for free, obviously it's for free to sign up. All you need is an email. They have iPads and all that stuff. You could ride in the Toyota Tundra TRD Pro Pace truck. There's cool at-track experiences. You could be a part of Victory Lane that night with the winner. With the Outlaws, we love the fans. We care for the fans, and we want to give you fans the best show possible. It's a Wednesday night. You know what I mean? We're going to run it as the most efficient show we can, but while still doing those things and implementing those things to make sure the fans get the full experience. Right now, it's me and Hannah keep talking about it. It is an amazing time to be a late model fan, but most importantly, a very good time to be a World of Outlaw late model fan.
Yeah.
Kurt, 26 points. We have 13, 14 races left this year.
Shepard, Hoffman, Pierce.
Points.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
Pierce
coming back.
Yeah.
Right. Pierce making the comeback from the penalty earlier in the season, winning six in a row.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
So, I mean, all three of those guys we just named have won races at Highland.
Yes.
Maybe not in a late model.
No,
Hoffman's won a race in a modified here.
Hoffman's also from that area, though. Let's not forget that he grew up in that.
He cut his teeth in this area.
Yep. Absolutely.
They always say the thrill. You always say the thrill from Mooresville, right?
Yeah.
But around here, we know him as the thrill from Belleville.
Yeah. I might bring that back next week. I might bring that back next week. Just for Wednesday night, I might bring that back. I'm going to talk to Nick about that.
But think about it. You're right. Right. I mean, the points battle's heating up.
And Kate Dillard and Bronson only by 2 points for fourth, top 5 in the Outlaws. Kurt, 6-figure paydays. I mean, come on.
Never been here before, but I don't think Bronson or Dillard's ever been here before. You got guys, again, you named Shirley. He's having a great run with the Outlaws this year. Dennis Erb has, I don't know if you remember the Dennis Erb Super Shep incident. That's one of the most famous incidents ever at Highland Speedway. Yeah, so I've been burning up Super Shep's phone. He hasn't responded. Last year he was supposed to come, but he had a grandkids football game. He had to back out. I'm trying to get him here. We need Dennis Erb Jr. and Super Shep back in a heat race together. But think about all the guys that haven't been here: Bronson, Dillard, Gustin, Bruning. And
your outstanding rookies, right? Dustin Sorensen, Max McLaughlin. That's a really good battle happening there. Your Cody Overton, your Tristan Chamberlain. Those guys are really good too. I keep saying this, Kurt. The Outlaws are in good hands, right? Like the younger guys. I know we're all excited to see the big names, right? But man, also focus on the young up and coming guys that are going to be those guys one day, right? Like our rookie class right now is so good, and you have other guys like Ryan Gustin, who's really really good, has made a name for himself. Like the Outlaws are stacked, man. We have 15 full timers still, and if it wasn't for Hilsteback getting injured and it wasn't for Madden obviously getting sick there, we'd still have 17 guys on tour. You know what I mean? But just great talent all through the field. Great points battle through the whole field, right? So there's a lot to look forward to, and obviously good money on the line for a Wednesday night. And one thing that we can't forget: ice cold ski. I haven't had one in 2 years, so I'm ready. Outlaws and ski, baby. Don't get any better.
You know we're gonna have some ready for you when you get there. We take care of you.
Last time I went, you had a whole chest for me, and then listen, I'm beyond grateful. Thank you. You're an awesome man.
We try and make sure we take care of you guys when you come to town. But like we said before, Highland is an equalizer, right? Our little bull ring always has been. I'd give plenty of our locals a chance. You mentioned Klein, Kloos, Bauer is good here.
Yeah.
Mike Harrison's going to be running both cars. He's going to be in a late model and a mod. Harrison will throw the deck out on that thing trying to win the race, right?
Oh yeah. Won a Summer Nationals race. Clean sweep the Summer Nationals, right? Tri-City, late model modified.
Klein has been mad fast all year long. He's won here the last few weeks. I mean, how cool would it be? I mean, we love having the outlaw guys, the touring guys here. What would it mean for Highland though to have a local guy win the first Outlaws race here? I mean, it's like dream scenario. It's like pinch me, man, it would just be.
Here's a stat for you. on average, every single season, Kurt, we see 2 first-time winners with the Outlaws. On average,
Wow.
1 to 2 max.
That's
We
not
haven't
very
seen
many.
one this year. We haven't seen one this year. Is Wednesday the
Really?
night? Is
Okay.
Wednesday a first-time winner?
Yep. And we know the mods, the modifieds. You've got a lot of Hell Tour
awesome.
experience with the mods. We got the 3 Mikes coming: Michael Long, Mike Harrison, Mike McKinney. Chase Holland from down in Mississippi just confirmed he's going to come back up here. And Kenny Wallace, the Herminator, he just won for the first time at our fair race. It was so great. The crowd went insane for him. He kind of had some bad experiences with Highland in the past. Hey, we have some rowdy locals, okay? If one thing Highland's known for being a little rowdy, right?
Well, the very first time I went there, I kind of got intimidated. I told you this story, right?
You did, and we talked through that, and that's why I think that's probably why we developed a friendship too, because I wanted to make sure when you came here to Highland that, man, you'll get in a rotten experience. I've had rotten experiences this year with certain fans. It happens, but for the most part, man, we have some really passionate people here, people that care, and you've got a lot of fans. I mean, I know the Voights, Mark Voight and his wife are big fans of you. You got a lot of people that love you here at Highland, so we're excited to see the mods tear it up too. So, all right, we're going to wrap up here. I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. Pick 3 guys who you think you have the best shot at winning the Beat the Heat 40 in the late models.
I know he's not really a local, but he's so good here. Jason Fager. Jason Fager is really good at Highland. He's always been really good. I'm going to go another local. And man, I hope I don't jinx him again, because I feel like I jinx him every time. I said it earlier. Darren Klein. That 10-car, man, I'm telling you, he could win in a given night. He's good.
He got him a big engine in the offseason. He got a big new engine in the offseason, and he's been tearing it up.
I really do like Darren Klein. He's been a guy that has had my eye for a while, and he probably doesn't even know that. But Darren Klein, Jason Fager, and obviously I cannot pick an outlaw, right?
Yep.
Oh man. I don't know, man. Any given night, any outlaw could win here, right? Has to be an Illinois boy, right? Or does it have to be an Illinois boy?
I mean, I know who I would pick for my 3rd pick out of that group, and we don't want to sound like homers or whatever, but I mean, Bobby Pierce is hard to pick against.
How do you not pick him? He's the first guy to win the PDC USA Nationals and go for 50. Because the go for 50 was always an outlaw event for the longest time. We went back and looked at the stats. The only driver to win the PDC and USA Nationals was Josh Richards. Pierce did that, and on top of that, did the Gophers. So,
so maybe you don't have to answer the 3rd one. I'll answer it for you, so we not so neither of us catch. Yeah, Shirley too. He's won some races here, and he's with that new Longhorn, right? He's been fast.
Yeah, he's been really good ever since he's unloaded, and I keep talking about him on the broadcast. He probably doesn't even know this as well, but I keep talking Brian up a lot, and I'm telling you, he's been really fast lately. He's been really, really good, going to a track where he has a lot of laps on with Summer Nationals. Give me Brian Shirley. I think between those 3 drivers, heck, that might be your podium. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, Ruben, make sure you rest up. You got a big 4-night stretch coming up with Highland, Spoon River. Have you been to Maquoketa before?
I've never been to Maquoketa.
Okay, so it'll be your first visit there. Are you ready for it, you think?
I'm ready
for the 4-night stretch? Well,
I'm ready for it.
We can't wait to see you back in Highland. It's been too long, and I tell you what, let's make this an annual trip. What do you say?
Absolutely, let's do it. Hey, let's include that in the prayer this year.
We're gonna blow the roof off this place.
Kurt, so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I love Highland, Illinois, and love Illinois in general. I know I'm from New Mexico and live in New Mexico, but hey, I am Midwest. The Midwest has become home to me a lot after the 5-year Summer Nationals and all that stuff. So
you spent a lot of long nights at the Illinois Bull Rings, but we're gonna make history. We can't wait for you to be a part of it. So thank you, Ruben, for taking the time out of your busy schedule. You were hitting the lake today, I think. I wish you'd have wore the sunglasses. I was going to call you Hollywood Ruben Mireles. You had the sunglasses on earlier. I wish you would have worn them during the podcast. That would have been amazing. But again, been great getting to know you over the years. Great building a friendship with you, and can't wait to see you in a few days here at Highland, buddy.
Yes, sir. See you next Wednesday,
All right.
buddy.
Thanks, Ruben. And everybody, that was Ruben Mireles, the voice of the world of Outlaws late models. And thank you to our guest in the first segment, Tyler Robbins. But man, we can't wait for August 14th. World of Outlaws, first time ever, the Beat the Heat 40 by Bello Cooling, Heating, and Plumbing. Thank you, Bello, our sponsor, for making this race happen. Thanks, Vince, out there. I know you watch this a lot. Man, we really appreciate your support with this race and making it happen. And tickets. Folks, if you want reserved seats, meaning like top 3 rows or box seats at the World of Outlaws on August 14th. Last time I checked, there's only a handful left. I think all the top row seats on the actual top row are all sold out. So if you want top 3 rows or box seats, get on there and get them now. Go to My Race Pass, search for Highland Speedway, or go to our Facebook page, and we've got a link there. But get your tickets now. We'll have an express line for My Race Pass tickets. Get you straight into the track. No long waiting. And then this Saturday, August 10th, it's the Without Limits 20. 4,000 to win micro sprints plus modifieds, pro mods, factory stocks, and warriors. Can't wait to see you guys there for that. Pits open at 3, grandstands at 5 p.m. So the Highland Dirt Podcast, again, brought to you by our friends at Jansen Auto Group. Hundreds of vehicles are available right now at gojansen.com with Jansen Ford a Breeze, Jansen Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, and Carmi, and Jansen Chevrolet in Germantown. They have just the vehicle you're looking for. You can search their entire inventory at gojansen.com. That's gojansen.com. They're proud to support local dirt track racing and world famous Highland Speedway. So you know what that music means, guys. We've had a good podcast. Make sure you follow Highland Speedway and the Highland Dirt Podcast on all the socials, Facebook, YouTube, and X. And remember, you can find all the podcasts and download them on Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts. All 15 episodes sitting there live where you can download them. Make sure you leave us a 5-star review. And I'm Kurt Vonder Haar, your host solo tonight of the Highland Dirt Podcast. And remember, folks, whether it's Peevely, the Brownstown Bull Ring, Tri-City, Belle Claire, Highland Speedway, or your home track, get out there and support your local dirt track, would you? We'll see you guys next time.